Hello, my name is Michael Lambert, and today I want to talk about Keir Starmer because I think he's turning out to be every bit the disappointment that certainly I and many others expected he would be. I think he's quite indecisive, and I think he's quite weak, and all in all pretty hopeless. Admittedly, he handled the riots very well and was very decisive about how the perpetrators should be dealt with, which is good. But apart from that, I think the messages coming out have all been they've been pretty hopeless. One of the first things the government did was to agree to the demands of the train drivers. Train drivers who, you remember, had been arguing with the Tories for forever about increasing pay, and famously Grant Shapps refused to even speak to them. Anyway, the government agreed to all their demands. The government required nothing in return, no conditions at all, no extra productivity or whatever. They just gave them what they wanted, and what they wanted was £6,000 back payment for former pay, and they wanted £69,000 a year for working a 35 to 40-hour week and 5 to 6 weeks holiday a year. That, one would have thought, was quite a generous offer, and to do it for nothing, especially considering the country is suffering so much from low productivity, to require nothing in return seems a bit stupid. But the stupidest thing about it is, of course, that other public sector unions are going to say, well, if the train drivers can get just what they want, just like that, we'd like some of that, please. And indeed, already Mick Lynch of the RMT, he said that he's going to want the same for his drivers, the tube drivers and so on. So they're going to be no doubt going to be on strike very soon. And it just seemed to send out the wrong message. Why not demand something in return? Why not make it a little bit more difficult? Why not try to discourage other unions from piling in behind, which is what is going to happen, and that's going to cost billions and billions and billions. And one of the ways to contribute something towards all those billions and billions is to do away with the old folks' winter fuel allowance. Now, a lot of old people are quite poor and depend upon this money, and presumably they're going to have to sit at home in their overcoats and their hats all winter, or go without food, who knows what. But I think the thinking is, and it sort of comes across, the thinking is that, well, as far as the government's concerned, we can't argue with the unions because they kind of support us, they give us money and all the rest of it, and not only that, they could make trouble if we don't give in to them. But as far as the old people are concerned, well, they got no power whatsoever, have they? And half of them are going to be dead within 5 years anyhow, so they won't be voting for us again, and so we'll screw them. And it seemed very cruel, and it seemed to be again the wrong message. And then we hear that this guy called Ali, who is a donor to the Labour Party, who's given £500,000, £500,000 to them. He's got a free pass to the whole of Downing Street. He can wander in and out as he likes, and you have to ask why. And you immediately think of the Tories and how they were in cahoots with all sorts of people who had free access to Downing Street and so on. It just sends out the wrong message. People are bound to say, well, aren't they just about as the Tories? They're giving access to donors. But I think worst of all last week was Starmer's rather pitiful visit to Germany and to France. It was said that he'd gone to discuss, amongst other things, defence and security and so on, which is laudable, nothing wrong with that. But seeing him sort of all over Olaf Shulz, and same with Macron, and it's all in the body language, the shaking hands and all the patting the arm and patting the shoulder and arms around each other and all this stuff. They're almost kissing each other, and it all gave the message, oh, please, I want to be liked, please like me, please, we want to be friends again. And the whole thing was described as a resetting our relationship with Europe. And I don't know how many times I've said this before, you belong to a club, you're on the committee, you make the club rules, and you're in the club for years and years and years, and then one day you say, oh, I'm leaving the club. and you walk out in a huff, and then you start grumbling about the club and some of the people in the club, and you don't like them, and you have a whole hassle. And then a few years later, you say, "Oh, I'll go back. I'll reset my relationship with them. Don't want to be a member anymore. Don't want to take part in the club. Don't want anything to do with the club and how the club operates. But I want to reset my relationship." Meaningless, pointless. Just means nothing. And then there's the whole question of our relationship with the EU. I mean, I don't know what Starmer thought he was doing. Did he think that if he went and it was nice to France and Germany, that somehow they'd sort of, help him out a bit, to get a bit of trade? I mean, they're not going to do anything for him. He must surely know that we're not going to get any better deal than the one we've got. He talks about renegotiating a new deal. Well, he'll have been told, certainly by Macron, if not by Shulz, he'll have been told you're not going to get a better deal. You've got your deal. Live with it. And at the same time, he's telling us all the time about going for growth. We know that the economy is in a terrible mess. We know that the health service, the care service. We know that schools, we know that universities are having trouble now. We know that the police and the courts and the prisons are all in crisis. All these crises that all need money. And we all know the only source of money is either you put taxes up, you impose further cuts, or maybe you could print some money, which will end up in the price of houses going up even more, or you go for growth, and he's chosen to go for growth. And it's one of his missions. The second stupidest thing he ever said, I think, this mission. The stupidest thing he ever said was to say, 3 or 4 years ago, that under his leadership we will never even seek to rejoin the EU, or to have anything to do with the single market customs union or freedom of movement. He said that at a time when he had absolutely no idea how things would change. He had no idea that when he became Prime Minister, the majority of the population would like to rejoin the EU. The majority of the population think Brexit was a mistake. And that majority is going to go increasing. By the time he gets to the end of his 5 years, it might be 90% of the people will want to rejoin the EU. But no, he's having absolutely nothing to do with it. Absolutely adamant. But the second stupidest thing he ever said was it was one of his missions, his number one mission. And this is to secure the highest sustained growth in the G7. In other words, we're going to have a sustained growth bigger than America, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and Canada. We're going to do better than any of them from a standing start with an economy which is absolutely on its back. How's it going to happen? Where's this growth going to come from? It's almost impossible for small and medium-sized businesses, I've said so many times before, to deal with the EU anymore. It's almost impossible because of the bureaucratic barriers. Let me tell you something. I have a friend who 2.5 weeks ago, he deals in paper bags, and he sent some samples to a customer in Malaga in Spain. They were in a single envelope, and he filled out all the post office customs forms, sent it by Royal Mail, first class, tracking. Within 36 hours, he saw that the bags had arrived in the post office in Malaga. He's now more than 2 weeks later. When I last spoke to him a couple of days ago, the bags are still with the post office in Malaga, waiting for customs clearance. Now, had that customer in Malaga, had they ordered the bags from somebody in Germany or in Italy, they'd have got them within 48 hours, possibly even within 24 hours. But no, if you get them from the UK, they have to be held up in customs for days, weeks, however long. And I've lost count of the number of people and comments in my videos saying, people from all over Europe saying, we used to deal with the UK, but never again. We just don't deal with them anymore. We try and get stuff from Ireland or from other EU countries because it's just too much bother. And yet, we're going to secure the highest sustained growth in the G's. Where is it coming from? It's as I've said before. It's like saying, we're going to win the FA Cup next year. And how are you going to do? Score more goals. How are you going to score more goals? Don't know about that. It's just so naive, and these politicians just do not understand it. They don't understand the damage that Brexit has caused. It's made us a weaker economy. We're a poorer country. Everybody knows we're poor now. We all know how stressed out people are, and that's going to have all sorts of problems for mental health. We all know the problems of the shortage of labour. We all know, as I keep saying every week, about how we're going to have food shortages later this year, and food prices are going to go up and food quality is going to go down. We know about all that. And another consequence, and these are all things that Starmer's going to have to face up to. He's going to have to deal with. They're going to coming at him one after another. And the other problem is crime. I mean, crime is getting out of control. There's been a lot of publicity in the last few days about shoplifting. It's becoming a huge problem, and it's got to a stage now where a lot of people believe, and I think correctly they believe, that you can just go and take anything from a shop and there'll be no consequences. And whereas I used to think that people would start stealing food because they had children to feed, or maybe they couldn't get into the food bank or whatever, and that they would be fairly desperate. But it seems it's getting organised because shoplifting is so easy here. And according to an article I'll quote from the Sun newspaper, it says how a lot of this crime now is organised gangs who steal things, not food. They're stealing trainers in particular, and computer games and so on, in order to sell them on. And they come with the getaway cars and the big bags and so on, and nobody can stop them. And it says here, this is part of this from this article, it says, in the year to March, no fewer than 147,000 people accused of serious crimes such as violence, possession of weapons and sexual assault were let off with so-called community resolutions, where they escaped prosecution simply by making an apology. So you can attack somebody, you can beat somebody up, you can break into their house, you can steal their property, and if you say sorry, well, fine, no problem, off you go. Here it says that it says here, according to the Times newspaper, based on Home Office figures, last year 443,995 shoplifting incidences were recorded. Well, I would imagine that the majority of shoplifting incidents are not recorded, because what's the point in recording them? Nobody's going to come and see you. Nobody's going to come and investigate. Nobody's ever going to be caught. If you're a burglar, you've got a 95% chance of getting away without ever being prosecuted. And so this crime thing, which is growing, I saw a really tragic thing I was looking at earlier on this afternoon before I started this video. It was about a boy in it's on my phone. A boy in Albury, and that's Manchester, isn't it? 13-year-old boy stabbed to death. Well, that must be, I don't know. It's every other day somebody is stabbed to death. This is all the consequences of us all being under financial pressure, except, of course, a tiny little handful, as I always mention, at the top of the pile, who are very rich and got all their money in tax havens and are very happy that the EU will never trouble them. It's a dreadful state, and I think what we need right now is a leader who's really, really strong, really tough, and with a bit of courage. And we know why Starmer is so treading on eggshells, so feeble. It's because he's worried about people who voted Labour last time, who might next time vote for reform. I'm sure that's what he bases all his judgment on. Just terrified that people might vote for Farage and reform. And when you think he's so strong now, he's this huge majority, he's got 4 years and 10 months before the next election, and he's worried about people next time might vote reform, so he mustn't do anything to upset them. So he mustn't agree to, for example, this question of the EU proposed that we should resume or reinstate the Erasmus scheme. That's a scheme whereby people during their university time can spend a year in a European country, and likewise European students could come to the UK and spend a year here. And it is a great scheme. A lot of thousands and thousands of people benefited from this. A wonderful experience and so on. Completely harmless and only beneficial. But Starmer says no, because the Daily Express might write saying that he's always going back to free movement. And same way the EU suggested it might be possible for British workers to go and work in the EU for 3 years and then come home, and likewise European workers might be able to come to the UK for the same arrangement. He said, no, it's too much like free movement. And we know why it is. He's terrified of the Daily Express and the Daily Mail. And when, as I say, he's got another 4 years and 10 months before he has to face the electorate again. And when you think of how things are changing at the moment and how things will be in 5 years' time, it's like when he said that under his leadership we never join the EU again 4 years ago, 3 years ago. It was just a stupid thing to say. You should never talk about things that will be based your judgments on what might be happening in 5 years' time. Anything could happen. We've got global warming, we've got AI, which is going to take away hundreds of thousands of jobs. We've got 2 wars going on at the moment. Look at China, look at Russia, look at America. Anything could happen in 5 years. And he's making judgments. He's making judgments based on what are the Daily Express readers going to think about it. He didn't say anything where people might say, oh no, he's going back into the EU. And that's not what we need. We want a leader with some sort of resolution, determination, and confidence. And I don't know why. I'm sure there's a very good reason, but I don't know why he can't call the newspapers in. Why can't he just call them in and say, look, say to Murdoch and say to Rothermere and so on, look, from the end of next year, we're bringing in a new law whereby anyone who owns more than 10% of a national newspaper must be resident for tax purposes in the UK, must pay taxes in the UK, and no newspaper may be based in another country. And why can he not bring in something saying that any newspaper that prints any article where they are knowingly dishonest or where they cannot substantiate what they're printing, like all these rubbish headlines in the Mail and the Express, anyone who does so, the editor will be personally liable, and penalties will involve huge fines and possible imprisonment. Then the newspapers would no longer be this cancerous influence on society, particularly on the weaker, poorer members of society. But no, I as I say, I'm very disappointed with Starmer. I don't think he's the right man for the right job, for the job. And as I say, his premiership is going to be one problem after another. It's going to be unions wanting more money. It's going to be the NHS wanting more money and not having any more money. There's going to be a problem next month with the budget in October when they've already told us it's going to be difficult. And this relying upon this mythical growth that's going to come from who knows where is not wise, not wise at all, because it isn't going to happen. And so, on that cheerful note, I'm afraid once more it's doom and gloom. But I've spent 3 years criticising the Tories and pointing out how awful they were. But the Labour are not awful. I think they've got some wonderful people on the front bench, really clever people. And it's so sad you hear them saying no. Whenever any cabinet minister is asked about Brexit, say no. It was the decision of the British people 8 years ago. A lot of people didn't know what they were voting for, most of them, and in a dishonest campaign voted to leave the EU by a tiny margin. It's been absolutely catastrophically damaging, but it can't go back on it. Our strongest ever pro-Brexit Prime Minister is the one we've got right now, Keir Starmer. Anyway, that's what I think about it. If you've watched this far, thank you very much indeed. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd appreciate it if you do so. If you know anybody who might be interested, I'd be glad if you pass on my name. And so until next time, thank you very much for watching, and bye for now.